She didn't whisper it. She said it like it was fact, like it was something everyone already knew but was too polite to say out loud. Single dads don't know how to touch a woman's heart. They're too busy, too broken, too distracted by their own mess to ever make a woman feel truly seen. The words hung in the air of that small office break room like smoke, and Ethan Carter heard every single one. He stood just outside the doorway, coffee cup in hand, completely still. His daughter's school drawing was folded in his shirt pocket, the one she'd slipped in that morning, and whispered, "So you don't miss me, Daddy?" He didn't walk in, he didn't say a word. He just turned around quietly and felt something old and familiar settle back over his chest, the feeling that no matter how hard he tried, the world had already decided what kind of man he was. If this story already has your attention, you're not alone. Stay with us. Because what happens next, nobody in that office saw coming. Ethan Carter didn't talk much at work, not because he was cold, not because he was arrogant, but because by the time he arrived at that office every morning, he had already lived half a day. He was up at 5:30. He made breakfast, packed a lunchbox, braided his 7-year-old daughter's hair the way she liked. 2 plates with the little yellow ribbons she picked out herself every single morning without fail. He dropped her at school. He smiled at her classroom door until she disappeared inside, and only then, only after she was safe and settled and smiling, did Ethan allow himself to exhale. His name was Ethan Carter, 34 years old, senior data analyst at American Associates, and the only parent his daughter Lily had ever really known. Her mother, Claire, had passed away 2 years ago, a quiet illness that moved fast and gave them very little time to prepare. One day Claire was laughing at the kitchen table. 3 months later, she was gone, and Ethan was left standing in a hospital corridor holding a 7-year-old girl who kept asking when Mommy was coming home. That was the night something in Ethan went very still, not broken, not angry, just still. Like a river that had learned to run deep instead of loud. He raised Lily with everything he had, every school play, every fever at 2 in the morning, every nightmare she woke from crying. He was there, always there. His mother offered to help. His sister offered to move in. He thanked them both, and gently said no because Lily was his responsibility, his reason, and loving her completely was the one thing in his life that still made total, perfect sense. At the office, people respected him. They just didn't really know him. He was the quiet one who always delivered, who never complained, who brought homemade cookies to the team meeting because Lily had insisted on baking them the night before. He was kind in the way that gentle people are kind, without needing anyone to notice. But notice, no one really did. And Maya Ellison? Maya Ellison had worked 3 desks away from this man for 8 months, and she had looked at him and seen exactly what the world had taught her to see, a man too buried in his own life to have anything real left to give. She was wrong, but she didn't know that yet. If you're feeling something for Ethan right now, drop a heart in the comments, because this man's story is just getting started, and it's about to change everything. The project landed on a Monday morning. No warning, no discussion, just a single email from management that made half the office look up from their screens at exactly the same time. Effective immediately, the Harlow account will be co-led by Maya Ellison and Ethan Carter. Deadline, 2 weeks. Maya read it twice. Then she set her coffee down very slowly. The Harlow account was the biggest client American Associates had seen in 3 years. A full brand restructure, data analysis, creative strategy, presentation design. It needed 2 people. Apparently, it needed these 2 people. She glanced across the open floor toward Ethan's desk. He was already reading the same email. He didn't look surprised. He didn't look excited. He just nodded once, quietly, the way he did everything. And for a reason Maya couldn't quite name, that single nod irritated her more than anything else that morning. They met in the small glass conference room at 10 o'clock. Maya arrived first, organized, prepared, a neat folder already open on the table in front of her. Ethan arrived exactly on time. He set down his laptop, a notepad, and a small container of cut fruit that he clearly hadn't intended anyone to see. Maya looked at it. He looked at her looking at it. "Lily packed my bag this morning," he said simply. No embarrassment. No explanation beyond that, just the quiet truth, offered and then set aside. Maya blinked and looked back down at her folder. They worked through the morning professionally, efficiently. Even Maya was sharp, focused. She had strong instincts, and she wasn't afraid to push back on ideas that didn't serve the client. Ethan was methodical, precise. He caught 3 data inconsistencies in the brief that everyone else had missed. By noon, they had the skeleton of something genuinely good. But the air between them was careful, polite in the way that 2 people are polite when something unspoken sits right in the middle of the room. Because Ethan hadn't forgotten those words in the break room. He hadn't brought them up, hadn't changed toward her visibly. But Maya, whether she realized it or not, was being seen by the very man she had dismissed, truly, quietly, completely seen. And something about that, something about his steadiness and his silence and the way he never once tried to prove anything to her, made Maya deeply, unexpectedly uncomfortable. Does this tension feel familiar to you? That moment when someone refuses to react the way you expected, and it says more about you than them? Tell us in the comments. We're reading every single one. The second day of working together was quieter than the first, not awkward, just careful. Like two people learning the edges of each other without admitting that's what they were doing. Maya noticed things about Ethan that she hadn't allowed herself to notice before. The way he listened, completely. When someone was speaking, not waiting for his turn, not glancing at his phone, just fully, entirely present in a way that felt almost rare. The way he wrote notes by hand instead of typing them, small, neat handwriting that somehow made every idea look considered. The way he paused before responding to anything, not because he was slow, but because he actually thought before he spoke. It unsettled her, because Maya had built her entire opinion of this man on a single assumption, and assumptions are comfortable things. They save you the trouble of looking closer. They save you from being surprised. They save you, most importantly, from being wrong. It was a Tuesday afternoon when the first real crack appeared. They were deep in the Harlow presentation when Maya's phone buzzed. She silenced it. Buzzed again. She silenced it again. On the third buzz, she excused herself quietly and stepped into the hallway. Ethan didn't look up from his screen. But 3 minutes later, when she came back, he noticed the slight tension around her jaw. The way she sat back down and stared at the screen without actually reading anything on it. He didn't ask, he didn't pry. He simply slid the small container of fruit across the table toward her side, without a word, without making it a moment, just a quiet, instinctive act of kindness so natural it almost didn't register. Almost. Maya stared at that container for a long second. Something moved through her chest that she immediately tried to name as nothing. She took a piece, said a quiet thank you, and went back to work. But the wall had shifted, not fallen, not cracked open dramatically, just moved the way walls do when something true leans against them long enough. Later that evening, Ethan picked up Lily from his sister's house. She ran to him the way she always did, full speed, arms wide, completely certain of her welcome. He caught her, held her, pressed his face into her hair, and for just a moment, standing in his sister's doorway with his daughter in his arms, he thought about the woman 3 desks away. And what it might mean that he was thinking about her at all. That moment, a small, silent act of kindness with no audience and no agenda, that's the moment everything changes. If you've ever been surprised by someone you misjudged, hit that like button. This story is for you. Maya Ellison was not a cold woman. She just played one very convincingly. She had learned it early, at 16. Watching her mother wait by a window for a man who never came back, her father hadn't left loudly. No fight, no dramatic exit. He simply stopped coming home, and her mother, warm, open, trusting, had loved him so completely that his absence took something permanent from her. Maya had watched that, had filed it away in the quiet part of herself where children store the lessons that scar them. She had told herself one thing after that: never need someone so much that their leaving breaks you, never open so wide that the emptiness can get in. She had carried that promise through 2 relationships that ended before they truly began. Through a 3-year situationship with a man who was charming and emotionally unavailable in equal measure. Through late nights convincing herself she preferred her own company. Through a carefully built life that looked full from the outside, and echoed, just slightly, when no one was watching, the words she had said in that break room. Single dads don't know how to touch a woman's heart. They hadn't been about Ethan Carter. Not really. They had been about every man she had ever allowed close enough to disappoint her. They had been about the fear that lived beneath her competence and her sharp mind and her perfectly organized folders. The fear that said, if you let someone in, a real someone, a whole someone, a someone with a full life and a child and grief and depth, they will take up so much space in you, and when they leave, and they always leave, there won't be enough of you left to rebuild. She was sitting at her kitchen table that Wednesday night. Harlow account documents spread around her, a half-eaten dinner pushed to one side. And without meaning to, without any logical reason, she found herself thinking about the fruit container, about the way Ethan had slid it across the table without looking at her, without making it mean anything publicly, while somehow making it mean everything privately. She pressed her eager fingers to her lips and felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time, scared, not of him, of herself, of how easily, how quietly, this man was walking through doors she thought she had permanently locked. Maya never told anyone about her father, about the window, about the promise she made herself at 16. Some wounds are carried so long they start to feel like personality. If this hits close to home, you are not alone. Subscribe and stay with us. This story isn't done with you yet. It happened on a Thursday evening, the night that changed everything, not with fireworks, not with a grand declaration, with something much quieter than that, and somehow, so much more powerful. They had stayed late in the office, just the two of them. The Harlow deadline pressing close, the rest of the floor had emptied hours ago. Just the hum of the air conditioning, the glow of two laptop screens, the soft sound of pages turning. Maya was exhausted, not just from the work, from carrying herself so carefully around this man for 2 weeks straight, from monitoring every reaction, every glance. Every moment her guard threatened to slip, it was tiring. Pretending someone wasn't getting to you at 8:15, Ethan's phone rang. He answered immediately, and Maya watched, without meaning to, as his entire face changed, softened, opened, became something completely unguarded. "Hey, baby girl, why aren't you asleep?" A small smile. I know you miss me. I'll be home soon. Did Auntie give you warm milk?" Another pause. His eyes closed briefly. "Okay, you pick the story, anyone you want. I'll be there before the last page. I promise." He hung up, sat quietly for just a moment, then looked up and found Maya watching him. Neither of them looked away immediately. "She can't sleep without the story," he said simply, no apology in his voice. No performance of fatherhood for her benefit, just a fact offered openly. From a man completely comfortable with who he was. The Maya nodded slowly. "Then you should go." He looked at her. Really looked. "The presentation will still be here tomorrow," she said quietly. "Go home to your daughter, Ethan." Something moved across his face then, something she couldn't fully name. Gratitude, maybe. Recognition, like she had just handed him something he hadn't realized he needed permission to take. He packed up his things, paused at the door, turned back once. "Maya," she looked up, "you're not what I expected either." He said it gently, honestly, without agenda or strategy or hope for anything in return. Then he was gone, and Maya Ellison sat alone in that quiet office, with those 7 words rearranging something fundamental inside her chest. "You're not what I expected either." The wall didn't just shift this time, it cracked. Right down the middle, 7 words, that's all it took. No grand gesture, no perfect speech, just the truth, spoken gently by a man with nothing to prove. If this moment gave you chills, share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Because the best part? It's still coming. She called him that night. She almost didn't. She picked up her phone 3 times and set it back down. But the 4th time, she let it ring. He answered on the 2nd ring. Lily was asleep. The house was quiet. His voice was low and warm, in the way voices get late at night when the world has finally stopped demanding things from you. "Hey," he said. Just that. Just hey. Like he had been expecting her. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. And somehow that single syllable undid her completely. "I said something awful about you," Maya said, no preamble. No soft entry, just the truth, dropped honestly into the silence between them. A long pause. "I know," Ethan said quietly. "You heard me, every word." She closed her eyes. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I wasn't talking about you. I know that's not an excuse. But I wasn't talking about you." He didn't rush to forgive her. He didn't perform graciousness to make her feel better. He just sat with it for a moment, the way he sat with everything, giving it the weight it deserved. Then, "Who were you talking about?" And something about that question, so direct, so genuinely curious, so completely without judgment, opened her in a way she hadn't been opened in years. She told him about her father, about the window, about her mother's face during all those years of quiet waiting, about the promise she had made herself at 16, about how she had confused self-protection with strength for so long that she couldn't tell the difference anymore. She talked for a long time, and Ethan listened, completely, quietly, without once trying to fix her. When she finally stopped, the silence that followed wasn't empty, it was full of something warm and certain and terrifyingly real. "My wife used to say," Ethan began slowly, "that the bravest thing a person can do is stay open after they've been broken. A breath. I'm still learning that myself." Maya pressed her hand flat against her chest, feeling her own heartbeat, steady, present, alive in a way it hadn't felt in a very long time. She had said single dads didn't know how to touch a woman's heart. She had been so certain, so protected by that certainty. But Ethan Carter hadn't touched her heart with a grand gesture or a perfect moment. He had done it with patience, with fruit slid quietly across a table, with 7 honest words at an office door, with a phone call answered on the second ring like she mattered, like she had always mattered. And that night, for the first time in longer than she could remember, Maya Ellison fell asleep without building walls first. She just rested open, unguarded, unafraid, in the quiet knowledge that somewhere across the city, a gentle man was keeping his promise to his daughter, rating the last page of a story, and thinking, perhaps, of her this is what real looks like. Not perfect, not loud, just honest, patient, and present. If this story moved you, please share it with someone who has forgotten that love like this still exists. And if you're new here, subscribe, because every week we bring you stories that remind you what it feels like to be truly seen.